The Last of Us is an American post-apocalyptic drama television series created by Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann for HBO. Based on the 2013 video game developed by Naughty Dog, the series is set in 2023, 20 years into a pandemic caused by a mass fungal infection, which causes its hosts to transform into zombie-like creatures and collapses society. The series follows Joel, played by Pedro Pascal, a smuggler tasked with escorting the immune teenager Ellie, played by Ramsey, across a post-apocalyptic United States. The Last of Us was filmed throughout Alberta, Canada from July 2021 to June 2022. It is the first HBO series based on a video game, and it is a joint production by Sony Pictures Television, PlayStation Productions, Naughty Dog, The Mighty Mint, and Word Games. Druckmann, who wrote and co-directed the original game, assisted Mazin with script writing for 9 episodes of the first season. The score was composed by Gustavo Santaella, who composed for the game, and David Fleming. The Last of Us premiered on January 15, 2023. It received acclaim from critics who praised the performances, writing, production design and score. Several called it the best adaptation of a video game ever. Across linear channels on HBO Max, the series premiere was watched by 4.7 million viewers on the first day, the second biggest for an HBO since 2010, and almost 40 million within 2 months, by March. The first 6 episodes averaged 30 million viewers per episode. In January 2023, the series was renewed for a second season. The cast includes Pedro Pascal as Joel, a hardened middle-aged survivor who is tormented by the trauma of his past. Joel was tasked with smuggling a young girl, Ellie, out of the quarantine zone in Boston across the United States. Joel is more vulnerable in the series. He is hard of hearing in one ear due to a gunshot, and his knees ache when he stands. Bella Ramsey as Ellie, a 14-year-old girl who displays much defiance and anger but has a private need for kinship and belonging. She has not lost her playfulness, bonding easily with children, and has a fondness for puns. She is immune to the cordyceps infection and may be the key to creating a vaccine. Guest stars include Nico Parker as Sarah, Joel's 14-year-old daughter. She cares for her father, playfully teasing him over his behavior and attitude. Unfortunately, she loses her life on the first day of the outbreak. John Hannah as Dr. Newman, an epidemiologist who issues a warning about the threat of fungi during a talk show in 1968. Melly Dandridge as Marlene, the head of the Fireflies, a resistance movement hoping to gain freedom from the military. Dandridge reprises her role from the games. Anna Torv as Tess, a hardened survivor and Joel's smuggler partner. Tess is respected in Boston quarantine zone, largely out of fear. She is protective of Ellie during their escort mission. Unfortunately, in episode 2, she sacrifices herself after she learns she is infected, in order to save Joel and Ellie. Gabriel Luna as Tommy, Joel's younger brother and former soldier, who maintains an idealism in his hope for a better world. Tommy was recruited to the Fireflies, but gave up on their cause. Later, Joel and Ellie meet up with him in a new town called Jackson. Christine Hakim as Ratna Petwi, a mycology professor from the University of Indonesia, who advises the government to bomb Jakarta to slow the spread of the infection, for which she feels is hopeless. Nick Offerman as Bill, a misanthropic survivalist who lives with Frank. Bill's paranoia and distrust of the government left him prepared for the pandemic, protected in a secure underground bunker. Mary Bartlett as Frank, a survivalist living in an isolated town with Bill. Frank is friendlier and more trusting than Bill, wanting to beautify their town and create friendships with Tess and Joel. Lamar Johnson as Henry Burrell, who's hiding from the revolutionary movement in Kansas City. Henry is hurt by his own actions, but ultimately does them to protect his younger brother, Sam. Melanie Linsky as Kathleen Coughlin, the leader of the revolutionary movement in Kansas City. Kathleen is a soft-spoken, outwardly sweet, but intelligent, fierce leader. Kevon Montreal Woodward as Sam, the deaf, autistic 80-year-old child who's hiding with his brother Henry. Sam was diagnosed with leukemia at a young age. Jeffrey Pierce as Perry, a revolutionary rebel in the quarantine zone who's Kathleen's right-hand man. Pierce portrayed Tommy in the video games. Perry is a former military leader. Rutna Wesley as Maria, a leading member of the settlement in Jackson and Tommy's pregnant wife. Formerly an assistant district attorney, Maria is calm and a merciful leader. Storm Reed is Riley Abel, an orphan girl who is Ellie's best friend at military school in a post-apocalyptic Boston. Riley ran away from military school to join the Fireflies, considering the former fascists. Scott Shepard is David, a preacher who is the leader of a religious group. David is calm and acts as a caring leader, but is manipulative and abusive to remind his members of his leadership status. He claims to have found God after the outbreak. Troy Baker as James, David's right-hand man. Baker previously portrayed Joel in the video games. James lacks faith in David, but wants to be considered his equal, feeling threatened when Ellie's capabilities threaten to usurp his position. And Ashley Johnson as Anna, Ellie's mother. Johnson previously portrayed Ellie in the video games. Anna is resourceful, killing an infected while giving birth. She's close with Marlene. Upon giving birth to Ellie, she tasks Marlene with caring for Ellie. A film adaptation of Naughty Dog's 2013 video game The Last of Us was announced in March 2014 to be written by the game's writer and creative director Neil Druckmann. It had entered development hell, though, by 2016, and the partnership ended and rights relinquished by 2019. Due to the extensive development of the film based on Uncharted, another game series by Naughty Dog, Druckmann ensured specific plot points were included when negotiating a deal with the film and television studios. He felt more closely connected to The Last of Us creation and development than Uncharted's, and always wanted to be involved in the adaptation in some manner. In 2018, writer and director Craig Mazin, who approached PlayStation Productions with a list of video games for potential television adaptation, was disappointed to discover Last of Us was being adapted into a film at the time he felt a television series would be better fit. A fan of the video game, having played it about 12 times, Mazin was introduced to Druckmann through Shannon Woodward, a mutual friend, in 2019. Druckmann, a fan of Mazin's series Chernobyl, agreed with Mazin that The Last of Us required the length and pacing of a television series. They pitched the series to HBO about a week after meeting. The Last of Us is believed to be the largest television production in Canadian history, expected to generate over 200 million Canadian dollars in revenue for Alberta. Sources suggested that the budget was between $10 million and $15 million US per episode. The New Yorker claimed the series budget exceeded each of the first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones. The first season covers the events of the first game and a standalone expansion, The Last of Us Left Behind, released in 2014. Druckmann and Mazin suggested a second season would immediately cover the sequel, The Last of Us Part 2. To avoid filler, though, Part 2 is expected to span the course of multiple seasons, as he did not want the series to overtake the games. Casting took place virtually through Zoom due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Casting director Victoria Thomas wanted to honour the game without being limited by it. Mazin and Thomas sought high-profile guest stars. Thomas said many of the actors don't usually do one episode of guest spots. On February 10, 2021, Pascal and Ramsey were cast as Joel and Ellie. Earlier that day, it was reported that Mahershala Ali was offered the role of Joel after Matthew McConaughey turned it down. Any actresses considered for the role of Ellie for the cancelled film adaptations, such as Maisie Williams and Caitlin Dever, had aged out of consideration by the time the series is in production, resulting in the reset of candidates. The producers primarily sought actors who could embody Joel and Ellie individually, as well as imitate their relationship. Though both had previously featured on HBO's Game of Thrones, Pascal and Ramsey had never met before filming, but found they had instant chemistry, which developed over the course of the production. Being a post-apocalyptic drama and thriller, the series was written by Mazin and Druckmann. Mazin wrote all episodes except the premiere and the finale, which he co-wrote with Druckmann, and the 7th episode written by Druckmann exclusively. Druckmann was convinced Mazin was the ideal creative partner for the series after witnessing his passion for the game's story. Druckmann referred to Mazin's story as the co-parent. Mazin said the series may represent a paradigm shift for the film and television adaptations of video games due to the strength of the narrative, noting it would only take HBO executives 20 minutes on Google to realize The Last of Us is the Lawrence Arabia of video game narratives. Druckmann felt the most important element of adapting the game was to keep the soul, particularly the character relationships, whereas the gameplay and action sequences were of minimal importance. Mazin said the changes were designed to fill things out and expand, not to undo, but to rather enhance. He said the series would avoid episodic storylines such as random encounters not present in the original story. Content cut from the game was added to the show, including the story of Ellie's mother, Anna, which Mazepin found gorgeous and demanded its inclusion in the series. Druckmann said some scripts borrow dialogue directly from the game, while others deviate. Some of the game's action-heavy sequences were changed to focus on character drama at the encouragement of HBO. Druckmann said the series was taking the opposite approach to the adaptation than the film Uncharted in 2022. While Uncharted tells the new story with moments from the games to give Uncharted flavor, Last of Us is a closer adaptation, allowing alterations such as changing character perspectives in a manner unachievable in an immersive game. Unlike creating games, Druckmann felt he was able to unplug from the characters when writing the show due to the immersive nature of video games. The writers found the series as an opportunity to delve into backstories of characters who the game otherwise ignored, wanting to better understand their motivations.